Hi, I'm Sug.
And I'm Dan.
And this is the Demystified Zone. More refreshing than Pakasti. What's up, Dan?
Hey.
I have a fun episode for us today.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this one.
We're going to jump right into it. No more dilly-dallying on this one.
Get to it.
So we decided to do something because as many of you may or may not know, I am in film. I work in film. And though I don't consider myself a cinephile, I'm not I don't know all the directors. I don't know all the cinematographers out there or the movie.
You are a 90s action
specialist
movie cinephile. Yeah.
This is true. My knowledge is deepest in film in the 90s in the action genre, probably horror too, actually. This I thought would be fun for us to do a movie review. And not just any movie. We're going to be doing a North Korean movie review.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know, North Korea has put out a long list of movies. Mm-hmm. You may have heard us talk about how Kim Jong Il, the father of Kim Jong Un, was a huge cinephile. He had his own studio, library, and film studio.
Yeah.
So he really enjoyed films and movies. KJ, not so much. He's more of like a pop culture basketball dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But his father loved films. Mm-hmm. So much so, he went very far lengths to kidnap one of the most famous Korean directors in South Korea and actresses.
Yeah.
You can read more about that in another episode. That's not what we're talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're doing our first movie review on a very famous North Korean movie from the 1980s, 1985, called Pulgasari.
Mm-hmm.
Pulgasari. And this is actually a kaiju film. And if you're familiar with that, that's basically a Godzilla film.
Yep.
Big monster attacking a people's. That's the best way I could describe a kaiju film.
Yeah.
So Dan, hit us with the log line.
Cool. In feudal Korea, the evil king becomes aware that there is a peasant rebellion being planned in the country. He steals all the iron farming tools and cooking pots from the people so that he may make weapons to fend off the peasant army. After he returns the property to the people, an old blacksmith is imprisoned and starved to death. His last creation is a tiny figurine of a monster, Pulgasari, a Godzilla-like creature that eats iron. The blood of his daughter brings the creature to life and fights with the poor, starving peasants to overthrow the corrupt monarchy.
Wonderful. Chills already. Chills.
Oh my gosh. I gave myself the chills there.
This, like we mentioned, movie was directed by Shin Sang Ok, starring Chang Son-hui, So Ham-gi, and Lee Jong-uk, and Lee Kwon. Hope I did their names justice there. Star-studded cast, I gotta say, for North Korea standards. Again, this was the same director that Kim Jong Il kidnapped and made direct several movies, this being the last one. I'm going to go into a little movie trivia, and then we're going to get into the movie itself, okay? First of all, spoiler alerts ahead, okay, people? So if you don't want to be spoiled by the movie, we put the link. This movie is free on YouTube right now. We'll put the link in our comments.
No ads.
No ads. That was the soundtrack you just heard. It's slapping right now. You watch it. Only an hour and a half or so. Mm-hmm. So let me give you some context here, some little trivia about the movie before we get into the review. So the director Shin had been kidnapped in 1970. The fact that I'm just saying this dude was kidnapped is so ridiculous to me. Yeah, kidnapped in 1978 by North Korean intelligence on the orders of Kim Jong Il. He was coerced into making several films as a director, with Pulgasari being his final before he and his wife, actress Che Eun-hee, escaped to the U.S., which is an incredible story. You all need to look
Bonkers.
at. There's a documentary out there. You just Google it, you'll find it. Kim Jong Il was a lifelong admirer of the director as well as Godzilla and other kaiju films. He kidnapped the former director Shin Sang Ok and his wife with the specific purpose of making a fantasy or propaganda films for North Korea. Kim also produced Pulgasari and all the films that Shin made before he and Che escaped.
Yes, he was a famous producer.
Executive producer.
Yes.
Okay? Don't forget, he's executive producer. One of the best, some might say. They escaped while on festival tour in Austria for one. I don't think it was for this. It might have been for this film. I'm not sure which one. Specifically, the film was inspired by The Return of Godzilla. The staff from Japan's Toho Studios, which were the creators of Godzilla, participated in creating the film's special effects. I wonder how many people he had to bribe for that. Here we go. They were tricked into coming. The Japanese studio was tricked into coming as they thought they were filming in China. So Japan, they were flying over to China, but instead they took a detour and dropped them into North Korea.
Yeah.
That's KJI. Oh, that man. Oh, okay. Jonathan Ross stated that the film was intended by North Korean government to be a propaganda metaphor for the effects of unchecked capitalism and the power of the collective, which we will get into the movie and what it's all about. But there has been some speculation that the director Shin included a hidden message of his own in the film. And we will talk about that as well.
Yes.
Now, Pulgasari became the first North Korean film to be released in South Korean theaters in the year 2000. 10 years later in 2006, Pulgasari made its New York debut at Columbia University Japanese Culture Center's year-long Godzilla Festival. So those are a little quick facts about the movie.
Wow.
Let's dive in. You've already heard the wonderful... Play that back, Jay. I love this soundtrack so much. Jay is... Y'all,
Jay
you can't
is
see
repulsed by this
You can't see his
movie.
face right now. We all watched this movie separately so we wouldn't influence each other. And Jay he's got a face right now. He's sickened by this film, being forced to play it over and over. But you should just listen to the music just with your heart, Jay. Listen to this. Oh my gosh, I'm already getting moved.
Jay, listen to your heart.
This was a terrible movie.
Hold on that review, Jay, okay? Hold. Let's just listen and enjoy this soundtrack. Is this not moving you at all?
This is a great intro song.
Okay.
It just draws you in, man.
It's so, it's got like a spookiness to it, an eeriness to it.
Yeah.
But a hope as well. The hope of a revolution. All right, Dan. Let's just get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Tell us, give us your review, man. Give us your thoughts. Again, spoiler alert coming up. We're going to talk about the movie in full and deeply. Just give us your, Dan, initial thoughts.
Yeah. My thoughts about this movie. I watched it with my wife yesterday night.
Romantic.
Very, very romantic. I would say that it's interesting. It's interesting. It's not good. It's not, like compared to take any action movie today, right? That's high paced, well produced, all of that. It's not like that, but it's interesting because it really gets you into the mind and of a North Korean or maybe a North Korean despot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you watched Godzilla movies, like the classic ones?
Yeah, of course.
How did this rank for you within that canon of kaiju movies?
I thought it dragged a little bit. Pulgasari, it dragged a little bit. There was a little too much.
There's a good 30-minute section where you don't see Pulgasari at all.
Yeah, that's true. It's like there was one too many back and forth with the imperial army and the peasant army, or Pulgasari.
Okay.
Where they're like, oh, let's think of another plan. And then they thought of another plan. Like, the most ridiculous part, I think, to me was they're like, okay, this Pulgasari needs to be stopped. Let's come up with the genius plan. There has to be a weakness. And their plan was, let's dig a huge hole. That was their plan. Like, this guy with unlimited resources, the best minds in his country, the plan was, let's dig a hole.
That was a pretty good plan, I thought. Because of context. Come on, they don't have nuclear armaments, even though that's kind of where they went in the end. They didn't have... They're fighting with swords and spears. They're fighting a giant 100-foot monster.
Yeah.
What else can you do but dig a hole? I think that was a great idea. How do you catch a beast? You dig a hole. How would you catch a lion? You would dig a hole.
Yeah, but it's also a movie. And you would just think, like, as a writer of a movie, you would think of a more interesting strategy than...
By the way, the whole strategy worked, okay?
It
got him.
Kind of.
It worked. It's just the...
Yeah.
Ami, the main protagonist, she revived.
She reanimated him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, spoiler alerts. We haven't said it enough. Jay is just making so many faces. So we're going to give him a chance to get on there because he's just going to come in with some raging negative reviews here. Jay, first of all, tell us how much of the movie you watched.
About 10 minutes. Yeah.
And where of the 10 minutes? Is it the beginning? First 10 minutes?
No, I actually scrolled through the whole movie. I kind of like quick watched it, but very quickly.
Very quick watched.
The movie for me...
Tell me the plot points. Can you even give us the plot points?
Not really, no.
Do you understand how Pulgasari came about and what he was tasked to do?
No, I have no idea.
So you didn't give the movie a chance before you judged it.
You did.
This movie has everything that I hate in movies.
Like what?
So growing up, those the old school
Japanese
imperial movies that my parents shows that my parents used to watch, like the Korean dramas with like the costumes, the old timey.
What about the modern versions of those? Do you hate those as well?
So I never liked them.
Okay.
Those are not my cup of tea. I don't really like Godzilla movies or like big monster movies. And then I don't really like old movies in general. Like, I like movies that are relevant to my time. Obviously, I've seen a lot of classics and older stuff, but...
Like what?
Like Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, that is not a classic. Okay, well, it is a classic, but it's not a classic film.
Godfather movies I've seen. Like, in that, I consider that in...
That is?
Older than me, obviously, so... I don't really like watching them, but there are a few exceptions to the rule. But overall, I generally don't go back in time to watch movies. So this had everything that I dislike in a movie, all summed up into one, and I just couldn't do it. I'm sorry.
We're not gonna let you off that easy. You gotta watch the movie.
I'll watch it tonight.
You gotta watch it like full through normal playback speed.
I'm fairly confident that my review will stay the same.
I'm hoping on to the 1% chance that your life will be changed. And that excites me.
One part I thought was really interesting was the father figure in the village. When he passed away, he died of voluntary starvation.
Yes.
Right?
And heartbreak. Some might say heartbreak.
Sure. It's interesting that even in the mid-'80s, North Korea was glorifying starvation. I thought that was interesting, right?
That's funny that you look at it that way. I didn't look at it that way.
Okay.
I saw it as sacrifice. Like, he was sacrificing himself. Play this scene back, Jay. We got it queued up right here. Let's see how you feel because you didn't watch this.
Because I made you with my last of my true heart. Please save humanity in my place.
Make Jay read them. So he's carrying wait, pause that for a second. So let me just give some context here. So the father figure of the village, he's in this jail. They threw him some rice because they were starving him. And with the last rice he had, instead of eating it, he made this little figurine, the Pulgasari figurine.
Like this lizard.
And right now he's like committing it to the gods to avenge him and the villagers. All right, go, let it run. We'll finish this. Get those subtitles, Jay.
I pray to the gods of heaven and earth, please listen to this old man's last wish.
So read it like he's saying it. This last wish.
See, this acting is. Look at that. That's like,
He just died.
Is terrible.
No, give that man an Oscar. Oh, Pulgasari is now pulsating with light. And all the young men from the village who are also jailed are crying. Okay, pause that. Oh man, listen to that synth soundtrack.
Yeah.
That was an awesome
Sweet.
soundtrack. All right, so does that change your mind about that scene? It is. I see your point though. He was starving to death, and he literally used his last meal that would have saved him.
Yeah, it was. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was like good or bad. I just thought it was for North Korea to this guy. He voluntarily didn't take the king's food out of protest, right? And 10 years later, North Korea sort of found themselves in a similar situation where the American imperialists wanted to send them food, and they did take some of their food, but to the end they never admitted that the UN or the US gave them food. They were like, I'd rather die than to eat by the hand of our enemies. And it sort of kind of played out in a weird way 10 years later.
And now that you're mentioning it, I'm going to show another clip here that supports your point.
Yeah.
This is a part in the movie where the villagers who are revolting and they're like hiding on the mountains from like the evil government are literally starving.
Yeah.
And they're basically saying, like, there's a few of these young villagers who are saying, we're going to die anyways from starvation. Let's just fight instead and die fighting.
Yeah.
And I thought this scene was really interesting because let's play it back and then Jay, do the subtitles. Come on.
But you can't get out.
If we're going to die, we might as well die bravely. Let's go.
Actually, can you go back like a minute? I want to show so the scene I'm looking for. Yeah, okay. All these people harvesting trees to eat. I thought this was so interesting. Like this was very interesting.
Yes.
This is what people are surviving on North Korea probably at the time. They're literally eating trees.
No, this is 10 years before the famine, so it's like a foreshadowing. Right? Because the North Korean government during the famine, which kind of started like 10 years later, 10 years later, this famine started, and they told the people to eat tree bark to survive, which is undigestible. Just like these people here.
The reason why it took me off guard because when I saw this scene, I was trying to figure out what are they eating? Because the first scene, keep going back, Jay. Go back 30 more seconds. Here, right here, this guy.
Yeah.
Go back a little bit more, leading to this scene. So this crowd of people, they're in the mountains.
They've
been
trees.
go ahead and play from here. And they're hard. I couldn't make it out because the film's really grainy too.
Yeah.
But they're obviously striking this right here. I was like, what is this guy eating? And then I started, that's a tree. They're literally eating the trees. It looks like squid at that. I thought it was Ojingan at first.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh wow, they actually went to lengths to show this. This is what they're starving, and I thought that was interesting actually that they showed that.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But to your point earlier, yes, this glorification of
starvation,
and then even in that scene we just saw the young men being like, if we're going to starve, might as well fight to death.
Exactly. So the seeds of the famine, how North Korea acted, and Kim Jong Il at the time of this film, he wasn't the leader. He was just his dad's, propaganda person, right?
That's true.
So 10 years later, when he is at the helm, when they feel surrounded by the imperialists, perhaps this attitude was already baked into the country. Well, we're going to starve to death and we're going to do it nobly.
Yeah. Well, I will. Okay, I know I'm trying to balance the scales because there's so much negative energy towards this movie, particularly from the other side of the room right now. But I obviously it's not the best film I've seen. I will say, and Jay may balk at me at this, but the problem I had is, I'm very much into fantasy.
Yeah.
And when you mess up the lore, then I have a problem. And there's holes in the lore.
Okay.
That's when I got problems. So the lore of this thing is, first of all, it got wished into being by this claymation thing the guy made, and then his daughter's blood actually brings it to life.
Yeah.
And then here's what I thought was interesting, a take on kaiju films. It actually is born with the people. Like the people made it. Most kaiju films, they come from somewhere else, like Under the Deep, outer space,
Forged
somewhere else.
in the center of the earth.
It's an alien, or it's like or it's a force of nature, right? To reap, hell on man. But men created this, men and women, I should say. And Jay probably hates this part. It gets raised as a baby.
Yeah.
It's a cute, and they call it the cute little baby.
Yeah,
Pulgasari baby. And it's like eating, and it's a little hand puppet,
needles,
which Jay does not like, right, Jay? Tell us about the hand puppet, Jay. You watched the scene.
There was a scene where somebody was being executed, and as he
hold on. Could you say this not as a complaint?
Yeah, say it.
No, I'm sorry. This is this as the sword is coming down when they're trying to execute this person. I see a sock puppet come out of the left screen and bite
the sword.
Pulgasari, literally a guy's arm puppet, with a green sock on comes and bites the sword off. Like that's
cute.
No, that's not cute.
Jay, you weren't focusing on the sword. You got caught in the movie magic, which was the veil was pulled a little bit, just a little bit for you, and you saw the wrong thing in that scene. What you're supposed to see is baby cute Pulgasari saving Inde, one of the protagonists.
Yeah.
This is what you miss.
No, I also saw
he was the savior.
I also saw the 30 seconds prior to of the executioner laughing, the terrible acting.
There's no complexities in the movie. Like everyone is either really bad or really good, except Pulgasari, right? He's just like, is he bad? Is he good? I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of my negatives, honestly.
Oh, really?
Was character development. There was no character development at all. Everyone was very flat.
Yeah.
Ami was probably the best developed, even though I don't know, she kind of came into this powerful woman of herself in the end, because she's the one, spoiler alert again, she sacrifices herself to kill the monster that has now become a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Jay's frowning at me right now.
But even that I feel like that is a very Korean trope, right? This
for sure.
This woman who is chaste, pure, and sacrificial and beautiful. That is like a Korean archetype, I feel like.
I thought this was a little progressive on their part, because even though the men were the ones dominating and taking over, she is the one that brought the monster to life. She's the mother of the monster, essentially. Yeah. And later on, we find the monster will do anything to protect her, too, including going into a giant hole or a cage. It was a cage the first time. A wooden cage.
A wooden cage.
The first attempt to kill Pulgasari was a giant wooden cage. After they realized this thing eats metal. So,
spoiler alert.
Well, it's like early in the movie.
Yeah.
They try to burn him, and then it backfires when he boils them alive to cool off.
Yeah.
Jay, did you miss that? That was an awesome scene.
I missed a lot of the movie.
Jay, you would have liked that scene. It was full of action.
Again, like I said, I'll watch it tonight, but I'm not going to call you.
It backfires on them, basically.
It does.
But anyway, my point being, she becomes this powerful, she holds all the cards. She controls Pulgasari. And at one point, their plot now is, okay, we got to get this girl. We got to get this woman and make sure Pulgasari bends to us because of her. Which, again, character development all around was not very good. So but I'm trying to salvage what I thought was something.
So the scene was this. This is ridiculous. The scene was that they trapped this girl, right? They had literally 4 swords surrounding her neck and showing Pulgasari that they're about to kill her, so you better walk into the cage, right? And they had her at knife point throughout the burning of Pulgasari, right? And then suddenly, when Pulgasari just bursts out of the ashes, they let her go. She was their best asset, but they were just like, oh.
They were
she just
in
runs
so much
away
shock.
easily.
They were so much shocked by Pulgasari's terror, they lost track of her.
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous.
That's what happened. They were in so much shock. Look at the chaos he caused. Look at the chaos he caused. Okay. I think. Well, okay, we're gonna move on here. I want to talk about some other themes here.
Okay.
Here's another thing that I was picking up on. Again, not the greatest theme, was weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
This was a very clear theme.
Yes.
Basically the feudal army, which are the bad guys here,
Mm-hmm.
keep trying to come up with new ways to kill Pulgasari. And it goes from, okay, first we talked about the cage. Cage didn't work. Pulgasari breaks out. By the way, the cage they just lit the thing on fire. It was basically a flame trap. Then they invent rocket spears. Remember that? Ballistas. But then they were like rockets.
Those were amazing.
That looked like North Korea's rockets today. Same things. Yeah. And you know what? And I was a little bit, this hurt my feelings a little bit. Like, they hurt Pulgasari. It poked his eye out. Mm-hmm. One of them poked his eye out, and he got really angry, but they didn't keep going. They should have they should have done the Arnold Schwarzenegger. If it bleeds, we can kill it. They saw that it could get hurt. Before that, nothing was hurting it. But this one had blood. Mm-hmm. And then they upgrade to literally what they describe as nukes. But it turns out to be cannons. These like mortar shells. Mm-hmm. Giant mortar shells.
They basically invent cannons and they bring it to full function in battle from conception of the idea to implementation in like 2 days.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna play this scene. Go back like 5 seconds, and I want you to read these subtitles because tell me this doesn't sound like a nuke they're describing.
I see. What kind of weapon is it? It's a giant iron cylinder filled with explosives. And when you set fire to it, even mountains will turn to ashes in a second.
Does that not sound like a nuclear weapon to you? A giant cylinder from which you set fire to will turn places to ash.
Yeah, they come up with an idea. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Well, again, doesn't work, obviously.
Doesn't work on Pulgasari.
In fact, it backfires in the most outrageous fashion. Let's show this.
It literally backfires.
Wait, hold on. Let's make Jay describe this. Jay, describe what we're watching here.
All right. The army is watching.
No, a little before the...
No.
They fight. Oh, I see. They launch this cannon into the monster's mouth, and then the monster spits it back at the army.
And then all mayhem
and then
ensues.
everybody runs away. Yeah.
All right. That's when they knew it's over. When their big ace in the hole was literally spit back at them.
Used against them.
Jay, you're not impressed by that? That was the best part of the movie right there.
Like in the Marines, did you have any of these types of planning sessions? Like, hey, what if we just take their weapons and spit it back at them?
No.
All right. We're going to get now to the heart of the movie. Let's go to the last cue there, Jay. And this, in my opinion, and there's no subtleties here in North Korean films.
Yeah.
This is very much the message of the film. Okay, let me explain what happens here, okay? Mm-hmm. So Pulgasari defeats the feudal army. He literally squishes the king under his foot. He like steps on him. And the rebels win. However, Pulgasari, who has grown by the rebels feeding him their weapons that are made of iron and metal, is now insatiable. They're trying to feed him all the stuff from the feudal army, weapon cache, and all these things, but he just keeps eating and eating. Mm-hmm. And now they're running out of things to feed him. They're feeding him their farming tools, which, full circle, was what the feudal army was doing to them, taking their farmers' tools away from them so they couldn't make a living and farm. Pulgasari is now doing the same thing because he's just got to eat. Then drops Ami, the main character, protagonist. Here's the movie. Wait, hold on. Rewind a little bit. Jay, you got to read this one. Come on. Read it with her voice.
It seems that it's so full that it can't move.
That's the brother.
that you, our savior, would become our enemy. There's a monster looking blankly at them. When this country's iron is gone, the people you will have to take you and invade other countries, then the whole world will be at war and humanity will fall. That's not good. I won't let that happen. Ever.
Oh. Rough translation.
Yeah.
That's not good. Wasn't
not good.
exactly the feel of it.
Yeah.
That's the crux of the movie right there.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. How did you? I took that in many ways, but how did you interpret that? Or when you saw this, what were you thinking?
I mean, it's a metaphor, right? It could be for many different things, like capitalism, as we mentioned, right? Or North Koreans' perception of capitalism, maybe, I don't know. It could be nuclear weapons, right? Like, there's nothing we can do to stop these things.
What do you think Kim Jong Il thought that scene meant? Like, what was he thinking?
Okay, so I get into this in my detailed review, but I think during that time, and even today, every media that North Koreans consumed had some sort of anti-capitalist message. So Kim Jong-un and everyone in North Korea would have read this like a commentary about the negative things about capitalism.
So Pulgasari to the North Koreans was capitalism. The monster was capitalism. And who is capitalism fighting then? Like, who are the feudal lords?
Yeah.
Is that
North
Korea?
It could have been Japan.
Japan?
Right?
Okay, yeah.
Right. Capitalism did. Maybe that it is a acknowledgement that yes, there are some good things about that capitalism has done for us, but ultimately it's an insatiable monster.
So this is why I appreciate the movie. There was obviously I have a different perspective because I have a lot of knowledge and hindsight of like history. But so early in the top of this episode, I was telling you about director Shin and his like secret message. Yes. So a lot of people are saying this was his secret message. There's this final scene. Obviously, Pulgasari, their savior, is now the bad guy because he's eating everything. And for the director, his little slight, again, this is his last movie before he escapes, is that Pulgasari is Kim Jong Il.
Yes.
He's this like all-consuming beast that everyone looks up to and thinks is like the savior, but really he's the problem. Mm-hmm. So that's like this little like hidden movie message. Are you appreciating the movie more yet, Jay?
I can see that coming from this movie.
So that was the thing, okay? So,
and if that's true, man, that is genius.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that when there's hidden messages within hidden messages, right? You know, regardless of the quality of the movie.
Which is poor, by the way. Very poor.
Hey, we're going to get into the review. Are you going to get... In fact, thank you for that wonderful segue, Jay. Yeah. Let's get into our DMZ review of this wonderful Pulgasari 1985 release by director Shin. Here's our rating system. We're going to use the same rating system the North Koreans use for their social status, Songbun. So there are three main classes. There's core, which is the highest category. Obviously most shined upon, and the best of the best in North Korea. Okay, so if you like the movie, you're rating it core. There's a middle class called wavering in Songbun. Mm-hmm. That's your B's, your B and C people that you don't know about. Yeah, mediocrity. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then obviously there's the hostile. Those are the people who are shunned, looked down upon. Now we're going to use that same kind of categories. Let's give this movie a solid review, okay? So what I want you to do is read your review. And Jay, you can just ad-lib yours because I know you didn't watch the movie. And then give us your rating for it. So you go first. We all know what you're going to say anyway, so go ahead.
I give it a hostile. It's a terrible movie.
Well, thanks for your nuanced analysis.
Thank you.
Done. All right, Dan. I'll go next. Here's my review. Pulgasari is a. Give me some slapping theme music, Jay. Come on. Pulgasari is a kaiju film with so many layered messages. You gotta know your North Korean history just to catch it. The first set of layers comes in the form of social commentary turducken. It's a propagandist film about the woes of capitalism, wrapped in the toxicity of totalitarianism, wrapped in the dangers of escalating weapons of mass destruction, and finally topped with the fear of globalization. However, the hidden twist is director Shin's middle finger at the dear leader himself, symbolically representing this all-consuming monster that is both the people's savior and ultimate demise. I would give this movie a core rating if it weren't for the god-awful acting, inconsistent lore, and character development. But the soundtrack slaps. So I give it a wavering.
Okay. My review is a little longer, but hold on to your seats. The year was 1985. So Dan Chung here, I'm calling from the future. I went a little crazy here. I did like a 15-minute review, and I bored Jay and Sug out of their minds. I'm going to cut it here, but you can read the full thing if you want in the show notes. There's a link there. Thank you. All I know is that this movie was one of the strangest things I've ever laid my eyes on. The bad acting, the synthy sound effects that sounded so 80s, yet so Korean. The clear line between good guys and bad guys, all of this formed a budaejjigae of awesomeness for me. 1985, Dan knew so little. He was just 8 and he didn't know he had dad bod. Eventually, 8-year-old Dan would grow into a 40-something-year-old Dan with dad bod. And if 40-something-year-old Dan with dad bod is a sucker for anything, it is North Korean. He can't get himself to look away from the people, the stories, the politics, and yes, even the stupid rip-off movies. I love Pulgasari, but I cannot recommend it to anyone. I give it a wavering.
Wow.
And I had a lot more.
I know. I know. I saw you scrolling. I thought that...
I'll have to cut some of that out.
You know what that was? That was the guy who gave the 30-minute best man speech at the wedding. He went way over his time. But he prepared for another thing. He thought he was giving something, but came in with something more. That was almost a look into your life.
It was.
More so than the movie brought more out than we thought.
I was inspired by the movie, man.
But you gave it away at the end. I thought that was heading up for a core.
No, it was bad.
You were building that up. I thought you were going to hit. I was a little disappointed it wasn't core at the end.
No.
You were hyping that thing up.
It's wonderful for me.
Core wavering was enough.
Wavering was enough. It was bad.
Well, bad gives it a hostile then.
No, but it was interesting, so it bumped it up.
Got it.
Yeah.
It was enough. It barely made it in there. It was a lower end wavering.
Yeah, lower end wavering.
Okay, if we tally our reviews together, this is go watch it if you have time. It's wavering.
Yeah.
The movie is in the show notes, so check it out at your own risk. You heard it here. Go watch it with Jay. He needs to watch it.
My full review will be on the show notes as well, or linked to the show notes on my personal blog.
We'll put his blog. I'm going to put his Twitter on there.
Zanga.
Everything will be in there. All the things that Dan needs to get out. He has a lot to get out right now. If you like the show, please give us a like, download, share us on your favorite podcast store or your favorite Chinese smuggler.